Devoid Wrestling Podcast. Devoid Wrestling Podcast. Devoid Wrestling Podcast. Cast it up, Micah and Derrick. Well, get ready for something you will have never wanted to know. You sadly saw it coming, but I guess you should know. Devoid Wrestling Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of the Devoid Wrestling Podcast. I am here, of course, with my good friend James. James, how are you today?
Oh, I am fantastic. I am so ready to dive in. This is going to be a fun one, guys.
And we figured for episode 31, what other show to watch than WrestleMania 30? WrestleMania 30. We watched WrestleMania 30. So part of the reason we did this is because Daniel Bryan, as many of you know, Bryan Danielson recently made his debut in All Elite Wrestling, and we wanted to take a look at, I wouldn't say arguably, his top moment in WWE.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the best run he had in the company, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and this was the Daniel Bryan show. This show was about Daniel Bryan.
This was like a very iconic moment leading up to Mania. They had, what was it, the protest. They had all the Yes fans come out of the ring to force a match with Triple H at WrestleMania. That was a powerful moment for the Yes community.
Yeah, and as everyone remembers, the Royal Rumble 2014, controversial that Daniel Bryan wasn't in it, and everyone was very upset about it.
And they let the company hear it. And for the first time ever, they listened.
Yeah, they actually listened. And part of it, I don't know if you know this. So originally for WrestleMania 30, Triple H's opponent was going to be CM Punk.
But right.
CM Punk walked out on the company. So really, CM Punk left and WWE was like, we're going to be petty and make Daniel Bryan have his storyline, but then make him the champion. But it worked. So win-win, I guess.
It's funny you think about it, because one way you could think about it is CM Punk leaving may have opened the door for Daniel to get that title shot, and now both of them are in AEW.
Yeah, they really are. And they are both doing very well in AEW.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This is now 7 years removed from that.
It's crazy to think that those two guys came in and you could arguably put them 1 and 2 on the singles card.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Arguably, yeah.
Well, why don't we just get right into it? We're talking about Daniel Bryan. He opens the show in a match against Triple H where the winner gets added to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match in the main event of the show.
Yes. So the first note I would like to mention about this match, before the match, watch Triple H's entrance and see the women on the sides. There might be some familiar faces.
Yeah, let me see if I can. So Charlotte's there.
Yeah.
Bailey's one of them, right? Sasha's one of them, and Alexa, I believe, is one of them as well.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and this is all before they debuted. Charlotte didn't debut until I think that summer.
And it's crazy because Sasha Banks has blonde natural hair.
Yeah.
It is freaky to see.
It's very interesting. And of course, it's a very large, unnecessary Triple H entrance.
where they have 2 minutes of cinematic music before his music comes on.
Yeah, I think Triple H's WrestleMania entrance could have done without the extraness, at all. Just seeing, in 2014, just having a Triple H entrance really that cool with all the lights in the shindig right at WrestleMania, that itself is awesome as hell because you didn't get a lot of Triple H at that time.
Yeah, it was unnecessary, but the match itself was a pretty good match, I have to say.
The story of this match is amazing. Triple H being sort of in the youth of his role as an authority figure in WWE, really sort of shining through as a heel in that regard in wrestling. I know his character was already there at that point, but when he was wrestling, he was still just sort of Triple H wrestling a match, and then he'd be in a suit. But this was really like the solidification of like that corporate Triple H for the last part of his like career.
Yeah, this really solidified that he wasn't going to be the Triple H of old, with Stephanie at ringside. A lot of those gimmicks were sort of used throughout the match. I thought the story they told was pretty cool, sort of Triple H and Daniel going back and forth, a lot of submissions, a lot of painful holds for both guys. It really got you invested into the match.
Yeah, and it really got the crowd into Daniel Bryan like right out of the gate. It got that moment, it got them ready for it. It made them invested in this show-long storyline of, will this guy finally get it done? Will the guy who represents us, the people, finally topple the big authority and stand tall in the end?
Or will the members of Evolution just have a title match?
Right. Is it going to be very cool or interesting? Or like, yeah, it's like 2006. What else can we do?
Let's just bring Ric Flair out.
Yeah, why not? Literally. But Daniel Bryan does get the big win in this match and goes on to the main event, which already consists of Randy Orton and the winner of the Royal Rumble that year, Big Dave Batista,
who they tried to push as a face, but that did not work out.
No, it did not. I mean, they put him in a small feud with Del Rio that was like, yeah, it's Batista. He's doing it.
I don't even remember that.
I do, because I was like, really? Del Rio of all people? Like, I could understand if you brought Batista back and have him had a small feud with like an up-and-coming star that you were okay with jobbing to Batista before Mania, but like Del Rio in 2014 was old news.
Yeah.
He was very old news. Del Rio, like, I think Del Rio stopped actually being relevant in WWE like early 2013.
Yeah. Right after his title run, he burned a lot of bridges.
He sure did. And he wasn't that great to begin with. I'll say, I don't know why he's won the title so many times.
Yeah.
He's like a 6-time world champion in WWE. Isn't that ridiculous? It's Alberto Del Rio. He was okay at best.
That's 5 or 6 times too many.
Yeah. If you'll notice, he's not on this card. Yeah, he's in the Battle Royal, actually. He's in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
That is right.
That's where Alberto Del Rio is at this point in his career in WWE.
But yeah, so Daniel Bryan versus Triple H was a great match.
Out of a Dave Meltzer 5 stars, James, how much would you rate this match?
That match, I would give it a solid 3.5. It wasn't anything insane, but I did want to consider it above average.
Yeah, I would
above average match.
I would also give it a 3.5 stars. I think the story was really there. I just think that as great as it was and as cool as it was to still see Triple H go in 2014, it was bogged down a bit by Triple H in 2014.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just not the pace. They can't keep the pace up throughout the match.
But otherwise, I think it was a very great match.
Oh, yeah. Other than that, yeah.
On to our next match. Talking about old versus new, we've got the new here and the old here as the Shield, the team of Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose take on the team of Kane, who was in slacks at this point, and the New Age Outlaws, who were like mid-50s.
Yeah, they took on Billy Gunn, who was in shape, so he's the only one that really should have been wrestling. They dragged Road Dogg Jesse James out from a cellar somewhere. They brought him back, and they had Kane. It wasn't even Kane. He's already the mayor at this point.
Yeah, Kane was like middle management at this point. Kane was like not even the most interesting part of like power struggles in WWE. He was like the general manager, but there's a higher authority figure.
It was very much like the Big Show thing where they just had him turn like every other week.
My God.
Oh, but when you say he came out in slacks, you're not exaggerating. No. I think he literally was just shirtless in jeans and wandered out to the ring.
He came out in, I joke you not, like a suit pants only. Like only the suit pants, no shirt or anything. And like he's not bald like Kane used to be. He's got like just like a buzz cut basically.
Yeah, I would just love to be a fly on the rope for when Kane looks at Road Dogg and Billy Gunn and just says to himself, "Yeah, we got this."
Kane was like still like Kane was the most active wrestler on that team.
Yeah.
The New Age Outlaws only sort of reemerged earlier in December to squash Cody and Goldust for some reason.
They had a title run at some point.
They did.
It was
they beat Cody and Goldust for it, and they lost it to the Usos, I think, right before Mania.
Yeah, it was a very short run, but it was cool they got brought back for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We say all this because the match itself wasn't much. It was the Shield
Yeah.
beating the Shield, and they were cool.
It was no other way to put it. It was a squash match.
It was the Shield beating the old guys at WrestleMania. Like, you can't really say much else about the match.
Which is weird because like WrestleMania 30 opened up with like all the nostalgia possible. Like they put Hogan, Stone Cold, and The Rock in the same ring. And then the second match of the card, they come out and just completely squash it. All nostalgia possible.
Well, and they even have like Triple H in the opening match, like having a fighting chance to beat Daniel Bryan. And then this match happens, and they're just like, remember those guys from the Attitude Era? Fuck those ones. James, out of Dave Meltzer, 5 stars, how much would you rate the Shield versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws?
Say 1.5. The only reason I don't give it a 1 is because it wasn't like completely terrible, but there were no redeeming qualities about this match. It really, to me, it was kind of a waste of time.
I'd give it a 2, but for basically the same reasons you gave it a 1.5, plus the fact that you're right, it wasn't an absolutely terrible match. And I bumped that higher for this match because it does have the New Age Outlaws in it in 2014.
That's true.
And honestly, could have been a lot worse. They did not have great matches in that run back. I will say that. Oh, Billy Gunn did great.
Yeah, and Billy Gunn still does great.
Yeah, he's still wrestling, which is crazy.
Absurd. The Gun Club.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, we get to our next match. Speaking of huge, it's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. The first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, aptly named for the episode of this podcast because there were 31 participants in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That's really why this is episode 31.
Exactly.
Because of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Because that's what I think of when I think of WrestleMania 30.
Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts on the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, James?
So I always like Battle Royal matches.
Yeah.
Personally, they're my favorite because of the possibility for returns. Because I'm someone that loves nostalgia. I love to see old guys try to lace up their boots one more time.
Mm.
This was not that though. This was just an excuse for the rest of the locker room to get on the card somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. This was, in my opinion, it was better than the Shield Kane match.
Yeah, I will give WWE credit for finding a way to acknowledge Andre the Giant and all of the things that he's done for the wrestling business, because I think he's truly a legend, and he paves the way for a lot of people that aren't just the Vince McMahon type to succeed in wrestling. Yeah. That being said, in terms of people that Vince McMahon wouldn't think to book on the WrestleMania card, this match sure is full of them. It's almost entirely filler, plus the Big Show, Cesaro, I guess Del Rio, maybe.
At this point, he's kind of coming down, but yes,
right.
He was there.
The point is, there's a lot of filler for really only maybe 3 or 4 actual people who have a shot at winning.
Think of your Justin Gabriel, Santino Marella types.
Yeah. This
30 of those guys.
Fun fact about this match, this was David Otunga's last ever wrestling match. I hate that I know that.
Well, he went out on a note.
He did go. Did he? I don't think they showed his elimination.
That's right. It was just kind of Michael Cole saying, "Oh, there goes David Otunga."
It would be here. David Otunga has been eliminated, and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, David Otunga. I wonder how he's doing." And then he never wrestles again. But overall, the match ends. It's down to the Big Show and Cesaro. Cesaro does a cool WrestleMania feat of strength thing and lifts up the Big Show very easily. It just tosses him over the top rope. And I think he's Cesaro at this point. I think he's lost Antonio at this point.
Yes.
Cesaro, still a member of the Real Americans, Cesaro, wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Yeah, and I remember when that happened, I was really happy for him because, you know, I think a lot of us thought it was going to lead to a bigger push.
I remember being really surprised because he was in the midst of being just like in the Real Americans with Jack Swagger. I didn't expect them to start pushing Cesaro like this. And
yeah.
We thought it was going to lead to bigger and better things. It never does in WWE, does it?
Should have known better.
We should have known better. Daniel Bryan got hurt like a month after this show.
Yep.
Nothing good can happen in WWE. This is a take I'm willing to take.
WWE cannot have nice things.
No, it's impossible. Speaking of... actually, before we get to that, out of a Dave Meltzer 5 stars, how much would you rank the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal?
This one, all right, this is what I would give it to. It was more engaging than the last match, but still very filler until the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give it a 2 stars. It was an average match. I'll give it 2.5 because it is a big moment in Cesaro's career. And after WrestleMania 37, there is sort of a later moment in Cesaro's career to mirror that. So it's cool to like look back on that and see those differences. Yeah, so we're talking about you can't have anything nice in WWE. And what a better example of you can't have anything nice in WWE than John Cena versus Bray Wyatt.
At this point, Bray Wyatt is probably at his depths.
So before this, Daniel Bryan was involved with Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
In the lead up to the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, he was part of the Wyatt family, Daniel Bryan. He was going by Daniel Wyatt for a while and going with them. And he and Bray Wyatt had a banger of a strap match at Royal Rumble 2014. If you ever want to go back and watch a match, Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt in the strap match. In that strap match and the one they had in 2019, both of them are very good. 2 very good strap matches. But so Bray Wyatt is like involved with Daniel Bryan. It's the hottest thing in the company. And so what do? You put him with the other hottest thing in the company. John Cena. James, what happens when you put someone with John Cena at WrestleMania?
The same thing that happens usually when you put someone with Triple H at WrestleMania. Just take out shovels, start burying.
Is that why when John Cena and Triple H fought at WrestleMania, it was so like tense?
They're both just looking at each other like, well, who's taking the shovel?
They couldn't decide who to bury. And that's why they get paid a lot of money.
Yes.
Anyway, God, do we have to talk about this match? It's just... Okay, so Bray Wyatt was like the young thing. He was like the next generation, like up and coming young person. He's going to do so much. And they have a match. It's a match. It's John Cena versus Bray Wyatt.
And I mean, it's not a bad match.
No.
It was pretty good ring quality.
They are. John Cena's very good in the ring, and Bray Wyatt's a great in-ring storyteller. So of course that match is going to be very intense the whole time.
Yeah.
But
it's just the outcome. It's
if you're a fan of Bray Wyatt, this isn't news to you. This isn't like surprising to you that he lost in like what could have been his big shot, because that's sort of the theme of Bray Wyatt is he only loses in the cases where he definitely should win. You notice that? Yes. He lost to John Cena here. He lost to Seth Rollins at Hell in the Cell 2019 when he definitely should have won. He lost to Goldberg at Super Showdown 2020 when he definitely should have won. It's just, you can't be a Bray Wyatt fan. Because, WrestleMania 33, he lost to Randy Orton. He lost to Randy Orton with the fucking ring projections. You can't be a Bray Wyatt fan because you won't get a win.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I would say he crumbles under the pressure, but it's really the executives that crumble under the pressure when it comes time to decide.
Yeah. Except for WrestleMania 37. I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah.
That was not good. But out of a Dave Meltzer 5 stars, James, what would you give John Cena versus Bray Wyatt?
I would give it a 3. I'd say this is an average match. I'd say average for the card, like WrestleMania. Yeah. For WrestleMania, this is your average WrestleMania match. It's a good match, good storytelling, but the wrong guy won. And I can't give it more than 3 stars because of that.
I will agree. The wrong person absolutely won. I don't think Cena needed any wins at that time. I don't think he even did really anything of note until he won the title from Rusev the next year, if I'm right.
I was going to say...
he won... Actually, that he did a lot of note in 2014. It was a pretty interesting year for Cena.
Yeah. I was going to say, this was even before his U.S. title run and all that.
This was... Yeah, so this was like the last big program of Cena's. His next big program was with Lesnar for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And we all know how that went. So this was like... This was sort of Cena's last win as Super Cena.
Yes.
Yeah. You could think of it as almost. Yeah, his last big win as Super Cena.
His last big win is PG Cena. Yeah. What I like to call it.
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, I'd give it 3 stars as well. So, talking about putting brand new stars over, The Undertaker did just that at WrestleMania 30, where he so graciously sacrificed his 21 match long WrestleMania undefeated streak for the promising young up-and-comer Brock Lesnar.
Now, I do have to say, and Brock Lesnar is one of my favorites, if anyone knows me. Brock did go on a really good run after this. That did kind of warrant the win. Now, I will say, I didn't think he was going to win at the time. I'm still shocked he won it to this day, that was the decision made. The only thing I can say is at least it's not one of those times where a guy wins a match and then disappears. At least Brock actually took the ball and ran with it for a while.
Right.
In terms of carrying titles and putting on good matches.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Thinking about this genuinely. If the Cena Brock match at SummerSlam and the Taker Brock match at Mania were like reversed, like that match happened before and then the Mania match happened, do you think people would have been surprised about the Mania match outcome if the Cena match had already happened?
If the Cena match had already happened, I think people would have still been surprised.
See, I don't think so.
I think anytime you break a 21 match streak, people are going to be surprised.
See, I think with the thing about the Cena win, the Cena match, is that was sort of a similar deal almost.
Yeah.
Was just how badly Lesnar brutalized Cena at SummerSlam 2014. Well, I think if that match would have happened before WrestleMania 30, I think it sort of would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Where that match would have introduced this idea of like Lesnar is this dangerous, and then the Mania match would have solidified it.
Yeah, that's
rather
a
than
better
the
way
Mania
to
match introducing it, and then the SummerSlam match sort of very, very harshly solidifying it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think if you switch them, like that probably would have worked out better, and I bet they could have done a better lead up in programming because Lesnar would have had that momentum behind him. Because see, I'm a Lesnar historian. Before this, right, WrestleMania 29, Lesnar had a program with Triple H for pretty much an entire year.
Yeah,
just doing nothing. They had a steel cage match at Extreme Rules. They fought each other at WrestleMania. Lesnar hadn't really done all that much compared to what he would do after this. Right.
Yeah. This was like, there's almost 2 eras of Lesnar after he returned in 2012. There's sort of that era between 2012 and 2014 where he's just sort of Brock Lesnar and he's around all the time. And then there's like firmly right after he beats the streak, he's the beast from then on out.
Yep. Exactly.
The match itself is bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It is a 50-year-old something Taker.
Yeah, Taker gets very badly concussed early on too.
Yeah.
Just brings it down. There's like it's sort of both just like an old Taker Mania match and just like a Lesnar match at the same time. You know what I mean? It's just like exactly what you'd expect from Brock Lesnar and the Undertaker, except for the outcome.
Yeah, it is exactly that, and I can still picture that one guy's face in the white shirt, just
yeah,
you know, I can still picture his face vividly.
One of the most iconic images I think in WWE history by far. Out of a Dave Meltzer 5 stars,
this one I will give it a 3.5. It's not a great match, but the significance of it is huge because Brock Lesnar beats the streak. It's the end of an era for The Undertaker and the start of arguably one of the biggest pushes in the past decade for WWE.
That is a great argument. I give this match a 2. I think the match itself is poor. For The Undertaker's very long WrestleMania streak, I think it was a very bad way to end out before losing for the first time. I think Lesnar was absolutely not the guy that needed the rub. I think for what they wanted to do, he needed the rub, but I don't think they needed to do what they wanted to do.
He did not need that match. I could have had a different match.
I think there was, especially in 2014, there was a litany of people at the time that could have and probably should have beaten The Undertaker for his streak. I know the one that was floating around a lot of the time was Wade Barrett being the one to end the streak, which I would have been very behind.
I mean, if he could have taken it somewhere, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the pros, it is a very iconic moment in WWE history. It solidified Brock Lesnar as who he is today, and that's it. So the next match happened, I think. I'm going to pull up my phone so I can accurately name all of the participants. This was the Vicky Guerrero Invitational Divas match. It was just a match. It contained the following people: AJ Lee, Oksana, Alicia Fox, Brie Bella, Cameron, Emma, Eva Marie, Layla, Naomi, Natalia, Nikki Bella, Rosa Mendez, Summer Rae, and Tamina Snuka.
Did you say Emma?
I did say Emma. Do you remember Emma? She did the fucking wasn't she with Santino for a while? Didn't they have a thing?
Yes, they did have a thing.
She's in Impact now. She's doing like really well for herself, honestly. She's teaming with, oh my god, Impact Knockouts legend just returned from like retirement. But she's like teaming with an Impact Knockouts like legend right now. And like doing tag team stuff for the Knockouts tag titles, which is cool for Emma. But yeah, oh my god, Emma.
I mean, there's a couple other ones in there. Alicia Fox.
Oh man, Alicia Fox. I mean, did she have a peak? I was gonna say, was this peak Alicia Fox? But did she have a peak?
I can't remember when it was, if it happened.
I think her peak would have been like, do you remember the Noam Dar storyline?
No.
When they had just split the brands and they had just gotten the cruiserweights on Raw? They had like a storyline where Alicia Fox had a huge crush on Noam Dar had a huge crush on Alicia Fox. It was a weird thing. But the joke of it was that Noam Dar, in his very Scottish accent, would call her Alicia Fox. So it just sounds like he's saying Alicia Fox the whole time, which is very funny. This match contained a pinfall by AJ Lee to win the match.
Yeah, it was 6 minutes.
It was about 6-7 minutes of the match before the main event, basically.
Yeah.
A lot of the women they were booking at this time, they weren't booking wrestling talent first. So while there are a lot of talented women in this match, Natalia, AJ Lee, to a lesser extent Tamina, there were also a lot of people who are very green who like were like pretty, but they were very green. Like
think of Eva Marie. Yeah.
Eva Marie, even like Layla, who had been like kind of wrestling for a while, and she was like all right, but like she was like veteran with like
just a few women in the match that really could have used some more time at NXT.
I think. Well, this was before. No, it wasn't before NXT. That was a complete fallacy that I was about to say. But I mean, like, Yeah, I think this was before the like women's revolution, so
Yes.
their mindset around women's wrestling was significantly different.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It's the only match on the card with women, and it's just a giant divas match.
Yeah, it is. It's the only match of the card with women, and I think
It-
it's not even joking. Just all of them that they had at the time.
Yeah, and it's 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could totally see women going to Stephanie after this, and it's pretty close to the starting point of the revolution. And I didn't even think of this at the time, but looking back, maybe WrestleMania 30 is a moment they all just look at each other and they're like, "What are we doing?
Right.
Biggest stage, we get 6 minutes together."
Well, 2 years after WrestleMania 32, only 2 years after this big Royal Rumble, this big match, that's weird big match, they introduced the Women's Championship. 2 or 3 years, 2 years later, they introduced the Women's Championship and got rid of that term divas altogether. So you can really see like this was like right before they changed everything for the better.
Yeah, the women's division now is so much better.
In terms of Dave Meltzer 5 stars, 1.5 because it happened and AJ won, and I like AJ.
You know what? 1.5 is exactly what I was going to give it. So let's just move on to the main event.
The main event, one of the most iconic triple threat matches probably in WWE history. Probably the most iconic triple threat match in WWE history, honestly.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus Batista for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Randy Orton, in the lead up to this match, he won the WWE Championship, or he won the World Heavyweight Championship. He was already WWE Championship. He won the World Championship from John Cena at TLC 2013. Batista, very unpopularly, won the Royal Rumble to earn the match against Randy Orton.
Yeah, won the Royal Rumble after returning not even a month before that.
Yeah, not even a month. Like, they announced he was going to return in the Rumble. Like,
yeah.
Which, first off, was the first mistake they made in this. Why would you not just do a surprise Batista debut?
Yes.
People wouldn't hate him then.
If you did a surprise Batista return and had him win, the pop would have been huge.
Yeah. But you know what was also the problem with that idea of having a big Batista win and having that happen is that CM Punk was really against that. He was really against Batista coming in and immediately getting a push to the top. Not because of Batista or anything Batista's done, but just because he's been away for so long, and now he's getting the main event of WrestleMania after CM Punk for the past 4 years had like worked his ass off harder than anyone else in the company for WWE.
And I mean, to your point earlier, you know, think about CM Punk. Yeah, he carried the company for 4 years, and they go to him, right? Vince and all the execs, they probably go to CM Punk and say, "Hey, you've done great. We're actually going to give the title to Dave. Why don't we just have Hunter bury you?"
Literally.
Let's put you with Hunter. I wonder how that match is going to turn out.
Well, and you know what's crazy is that like that was the first thing they did after like the Cena match too. After the Cena feud was over, they're like, let's just put him with Hunter. That's what they did back in 2011 too. Anyway, Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus Batista. I think a great thing about this match is that Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan are some of the greatest storytellers in WWE in the ring.
Yes.
And I think they played off. I think Randy Orton really plays well off of smaller guys. He really plays well off of like technical wrestlers and people who he can slow down and make that part of the story of the match rather than just like, oh, it's another slow Randy Orton match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say Randy Orton probably likes to change the pace. You know, he's a pretty slender guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's used to being the smaller guy. If he's like the bigger guy in the ring, that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and believe like he'd already had a few matches in WWE and again at this point, but Batista hadn't lost that much of a step in 2014 either. He put in just as much work in that match as Orton or Bryan.
Yeah, I mean the ring quality was great. This match, this is one of your WrestleMania moment type matches. This was that. Yeah,
when a WrestleMania moment is a match rather than just a moment, that's how you know the match is really good. I think that's like with all the Rock Austins is that those Mania moments are the matches themselves. And I think this is another example of that.
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 10 featuring ladder match with
Yeah.
Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels.
We joke about it a little bit, but like when the Mania moment is the match itself, that ladder match, the first ever ladder match, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, those big stars, when the moment itself of the matches, that's when the people are over.
Yeah. And that's when you really can get behind it and watch programming for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
See where they go with it.
Yeah. Tons of false finishes in this match, too. Some really great RKOs, some really great spears by Batista. Finally ends with, I believe, Batista tapping out to the lapel lock from Daniel Bryan.
Yes.
For Daniel Bryan to become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion for... Now, they make this moment almost feels like Daniel Bryan's crowning. It feels like the first time he had won the title. This was his third world championship at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did have the world heavyweight title run.
Yes.
That ended in a Sheamus Brogue kick.
Yes,
right?
he had that one that ended him at Mania 29. That was a year before this. 1 year before this, he had that match. He had the SummerSlam 2013 fucking thing with Cena, where he beat Cena, but then immediately got cashed in on by, you guessed it, Randy Orton. Yeah, like, I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, but Daniel Bryan, he had some title runs before this. And and it feels like it's his first one, but it really is his most iconic moment in the company. If you've never seen, even if you don't watch this pay-per-view, at least take the time to look up just the reaction and the pop from the crowd when he wins it.
Mm-hmm.
That is arguably the closest thing I've seen to an Attitude Era pop.
I think in terms of getting into WWE, if you want to watch a single storyline that really shows the best parts about watching wrestling and the best parts about getting invested in a wrestler, you have to watch this Daniel Bryan storyline from finish to end.
Yeah.
Starting at WrestleMania 29 with his loss to Sheamus.
Yep. And you go from there and watch some of the things that happened on Raw. The strike, that's what it was. That strike.
Yeah, Team Hell No with Kane being a really popular tag team for a while and getting some tag title wins from that.
Yeah, and just the underdog. Daniel Bryan really is the underdog. You underestimate him at every turn, and every single time he comes out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. James, Dave Meltzer, 5 stars. How much would you rank this match?
5 stars. This is all right. Let me backtrack here. It's very tough to give a match 5 stars because it's such a big thing. But for me, I honestly would give it 5 stars because to me, it's one of the top 10 matches in WWE history. In that company's history, this is in the top 10, probably top 5.
I am going to say something that's, I think, probably going to be controversial. I give this 5 stars as well because I think this is the biggest WrestleMania moment in WWE history. I think because there was such a shift from the way WWE looked at their top wrestlers for years and years, and how they looked at how the crowd reacted and how they looked at being able to get people organically over, how they were able to replicate that with Kofi Kingston in 2019.
And it's just someone that's not John Cena winning a title.
Right. It finally became clear that someone like Daniel Bryan, who might not have been the big guy, who might not have been the strongest guy, but was the guy that everyone could get behind, the realization that, oh my God, that guy can still win the title. That was huge for wrestling. I think very big for WWE.
Yeah, I think it really got a lot of their fan base invested because I think people were able to see that you didn't have to look perfect to win a title.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what we think. Why don't you guys tell us what you think in the comments down below? Don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to check us out on all the other podcast stations if you're not listening to this on a podcast. Anything you want to say before we end the episode, James?
Shameless PWO plug, PWO cast. Look it up on YouTube. But yeah, excited to be on Devoid Wrestling. Excited to be doing this podcast. This was great, a fun time. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you check out some of the WrestleMania 30 moments.
Yeah.
We'll see you in the next one.
We'll catch you with another review in a couple episodes time.